Hello, everyone from Chelsea Fan TV. I hope you're all doing very, very well. Welcome back to another episode of the Day After podcast. This is technically like a double whammy because we didn't do a podcast for the Leverkusen game, but honestly, I thought it would have been pointless because we literally had a game on the Sunday, 2 days after against Milan. So we might as well just combine it, do it all together. And I'm here with Charlie. Big up to you, my friend. I saw you on both match days, didn't I?
Both days we were there. I suppose we can call this one the day after pre-season because that was pre-season, wasn't it? So there we are.
Well
yeah. That was it, mate. Kind of weird, bit different than normal. But yeah, it's been a good summer, you know. And we were saying after the game yesterday that sort of the feeling around the ground is like the best feeling there's been around Chelsea for a number of years now.
I think the last time that we were blessed with this much depth was under Thomas Tuchel when we won the Club World Cup. That was the last time. I mean, we had depth the season he got sacked, but it wasn't necessarily good depth, right?
Yeah.
Or you can say on paper it was good depth, but it didn't really work out that way. So, I mean, we've finally got a little bit of a gel, and I was listening to people in the stands, and I overheard one conversation which made me think, fair point, actually. And the guy was basically talking about the spine of the team, and he was going like, you look at us now, and you look at Palmer, you look at Caicedo, you look at Cucurella, you see a spine. You see that clear spine and those players who, no matter what they're going to feature as a part of this squad, these are the players we're building the team around. And when was the last time we were able to say that and believe that especially when we mention those particular names, right? I mean, it's great me mentioning a name, but I could see all of those players being part of Chelsea for another 5 years, no problem whatsoever. And that is the start of, hopefully, a great dynasty and a long-term future with long-term success as well. I mean, if you can retain players and have success at the same time, I don't think there's anything else that makes a fan base happier.
Yeah, no, I would agree. Obviously, it's all about winning trophies and it's all about being successful. If you do that, then all the other problems there are, perhaps in terms of off-field stuff, potentially, that all gets pushed to the side. Issues only get raised and made, they get heightened when things aren't going well on the pitch. When things are going well on the pitch, you're winning, the team's doing well, everyone just ignores what else is happening. Because ultimately, the most important thing is what's happening on the pitch. Forget off the pitch. If you're doing well on the pitch, nothing else matters. And right now, from the back end of last season, throughout the summer, and then into these two games, things have been going really well on the pitch. We've done some exciting recruitment. We're not quite finished yet. And yeah, there's no reason why we can't go and have a successful season. And I'm really excited to see what the next step for this team is.
No, I'm feeling good about it as well, man. I'm feeling really good. And I feel like a lot of fans generally have changed their tone, especially if they were more on my side. I'm trying to think about where you were on Maresca. I feel like you were. Where were you, Charlie?
I was happy.
Maresca out.
No, I never was. No, I was critical of him at times last season because they're particularly when we were struggling in that kind of start of the new year period where things were a bit difficult. I didn't feel there was enough tactical flexibility. I didn't feel that certain things were right. But I've always been pro him staying and for him staying. And I think what we're seeing now are signs that this guy is a good manager. This guy is tactically flexible. This guy is evolving his style of play. Already, from what we finished playing last season, through the summer, there's already been subtle evolutions of that tactical system that we were playing for much of last season. It's not so much two out-and-out touchline wingers now. Maybe there's one on one side, but then the other is more given license and will drift in slightly. Little subtle changes like that. The interplay seems to be a lot slicker as well. And one big advantage of the Club World Cup is that we've been able to bed our players in early in competitive matches. So they're up to speed with the team. Obviously, they've still got to get used to it, and they've still got to, get themselves even more up to speed. But I think that's a distinct advantage over any of the other teams that we've had, is that we've been able to bed in the majority of our new signings in competitive matches before the season's even started.
It's true. It is true. And we've done a lot of our business early. And, the scary thing is as well, I saw an article pop up from The Athletic, and it was talking about one of Chelsea's most promising players who doesn't even play for them. And it was talking about, I think is it Quenda?
Oh, Giovanni Quenda coming next summer.
Yeah. They were talking about Quenda, and it just makes you think, like, how many players have we got out on loan? Like, we've spoken about Kendry Pyers. We've got Mike Penders, who's out. Like, we have finally got this sort of machine that's cogging away. And I was chatting with a Liverpool fan yesterday. I saw him at the train station, and I just went, I thought, go on, I'll sit next to him. And I went, tough day at the office, yeah. And he sort of went, he was really level-headed, so he didn't take it. He was like, yeah, man, tough day. And to be fair, when people are like that, you don't want to give it too much to ease. So I held on.
You don't know him.
Yeah. But I mean, it did make me smile walking around Paddington, seeing all the Liverpool shirts. I thought, oh, this is nice.
To be fair, mate, we're all too familiar with that feeling of going home after a Wembley loss. So, yeah, we know the feeling very well.
Many times. And I tell you who else has a feeling of losing, especially against Chelsea at Stamford Bridge, is Erik ten Hag. And, look, I mean, we've got to start on the Leverkusen game. I guess we could just work our way through to Milan. It was a pretty strong lineup in a lot of ways, but there were a couple of, you could say, rotation options. We had George in there. We had Delap, who a lot of people would say is our second choice striker. Jorgensen, Gusto, Achimpong as well, Santos. So those are a lot of players that I think, if you looked at on paper and you compared them to other players in our squad, they might not start every week. But still very exciting to watch. And Estevao making his debut as well.
Yeah, mate. I was really impressed with the Leverkusen game because we looked sharp. We looked threatening going forward. We defended reasonably well. And what impressed me the most was the fact that this was a Leverkusen team who, I think this was their fourth or fifth game of pre-season. These guys have played, obviously, a number of matches. These guys have been back in training for quite a while now. And they didn't really lay a finger on us. We were very good, but I was also expecting a bit more from them. Personally, I know they've lost Florian Wirtz. I know they've lost Frimpong as well. Both of those guys to Liverpool. Granit Xhaka, who's been an important player, has gone to Sunderland as well. So they have lost key players. But I felt we were really good. I thought Andre Santos was very good in midfield. Estevao was outstanding. The link up already between him and Cole Palmer in that game looked like they've been playing together for a while. That's clearly something that's been worked on loosely at the training ground for the few days that we've been back. And that's really exciting. Some of the passes as well that were played in that first half were outstanding. Passes to get players in. And every time we got the ball, we just looked a threat going forward. Gittins, when he came on in the second half, thought he was electric, direct, taking players on, good dribbling, beating his man, getting shots off. It's just refreshing to see us play front foot football and got players that can make things happen and players that aren't afraid to be direct and will always look to take their man on rather than taking their man on be the second thought. And the first thought is just play a simple pass and recycle the possession backwards. So, mate, I was very impressed by what I saw. João Pedro again scoring. That's 5 goals in 5 Chelsea games now. The only game he's not scored in was his debut when he come on against Palmeiras in the second half of that Club World Cup quarter-final. So the Leverkusen game, mate, was really good and, not a level of performance that I was expecting given we've been back less than a week.
Yeah, it was a really impressive performance. I echo a lot of what you're saying, to be fair. And I think that a lot of people had question mark. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, we heard a lot of hype about Estevao, just looking at him specifically. But for me, there was still, and there still is, to be fair, that question mark, right? Because he's so young. He's like, has he even turned 18 yet? He's 18 now?
Yeah, he's 18 now. That's why I say,
right.
Yeah,
so he's turned 18. He's still extremely young. But you can see the talent, right? You can see it's not even raw talent. It's not like a Jamie Gittins. It's not like that. You can see that he almost looks like a developed player, the way he's playing technically in a lot of aspects, his ability to link up and just his directness and willingness to shoot. Not to mention the fact that when he does shoot, it actually looks like a half decent effort. It's great shooting, but if you're not going to do anything with this shot, then what's the point? And I think that just watching his composure on the ball, this is a player that I have to say, forget the hype, forget the ability. I'm just looking at the system as well and the way Maresca likes to play. And I do think that Estevao is very well suited to what we're trying to do, just from a profile perspective. If we're breaking down low blocks, this is a player who's willing to take players on. If you've got Palmer and him on the pitch, we saw a lot of link up from the two of them. And they just seem to have, it looks like they're having fun when they play together. It looks like they've got an understanding as well. And then obviously against Milan, he played as a 10. And I thought he had an instant impact, by far looked like one of our most dangerous players. And also for a guy who's not that tall, Charlie, I don't know if you saw that header he did. I mean, he jumped high.
Well, he won the penalty as well.
Yes, yeah, he won the pen as well.
I think people forget as well, the guy's a kid still. He's 18, just turned 18 in April. I mean, you still growing at 18? I think you probably are still growing at 18. He's probably not, in like developed fully into his body. But look, the guy looks ready. And I think it's really important as well. We caveat this with 2 positive performances, but it's really important we don't go overboard and start heaping more pressure on this guy. Just allow him to play his football. Don't expect too much from him this season. He looks exciting. He plays with a smile on his face. He's happy to be at Chelsea. And just let the kid enjoy his football. Let's not start saying he's got to do X, Y, Z. Oh, if he doesn't have a very good game, let's have a pile on. No, none of that. Enjoy him for what he is. Allow him to develop. Back him. Support him. And yeah, this guy will have very good performances for us. But I'll tell you what as well, mate. He'll have a number of games where he's poor. But let's not worry about it.
Like any young player, though, right?
Exactly. Let's not worry about it. This is a special talent we've got. Let's make sure we nurture him. Let's make sure we look after him. And I think you can tell that, the more experienced players, the guys that have been at the club longer, are taking him under their wing, And I think we're in an environment now where previously, I would have said, I'm not sure, is Chelsea a good environment for younger players? When we had all those problems in the dressing room, and we were always calling for, we need a mass clear out or whatever. Now, I think we've got a group of players and a squad and a coaching staff and backroom staff where we've got a really, really good environment, and we're seeing the results of that environment on the pitch. Everyone's happy. Everyone plays with a smile on their face. Everyone's speaking positively about the club. And we've got to make sure we maintain that. So look, Estevao, exciting. Really, really good against Leverkusen, as we said. Link up with Palmer was great. Again, when he come on against Milan on Sunday, looked exciting. Obviously, Palmer wasn't there. He was looking to do a bit more on his own. He wins the penalty. You're seeing him taking players on, trying to make things happen, putting balls into the box. We've seen both sides of Estevao's game in these 2 matches. And yeah, he's going to be an exciting option. Any questions there were about him going on loan? Absolutely no chance. This guy will contribute this season. He won't start every week, but this guy is here to play a big role.
I think, I think you're talking a lot of sense there. And I was speaking to a lot of people outside the stadium, and they were saying that he could come in and start straight away. And to be honest, I kind of agree with that. I do agree with it. He is capable of starting against Palace. I don't think anyone would have a problem with it. But then, in football, things can move very quickly. But at the same time, sometimes it's nice when managers take a little bit of time to make certain decisions, and it gives players that extra bit of drive to prove themselves. A great example that I give is when Sarri was our manager, and Loftus-Cheek and Hudson-Odoi were trying to get into the team. And I remember he never played them in Premier League games. He never started them in those games. And then they got their opportunities in the Europa League. And if I'm not wrong, both of them scored hat-tricks in those games, or one of them scored a hat-trick and the other one scored 2. Yeah, and then eventually, right, after performing so well in the Europa League, they both started in the Premier League and became key parts of his side. It got to the stage we went on that preseason. It wasn't a preseason. We did an expedition match in America, and Loftus-Cheek got injured, and Sarri was really pissed off because he was like, "This is one of my best midfielders I'm losing."
I mean, that for me, I think ended his career at Chelsea really for Ruben. It didn't. Well, that was the beginning of the end. Looking back, but yeah, look, all you can do is make the most of your opportunities. Estevao is not going to come in and be an instant starter. But when you're given opportunities, and he will be given opportunities, the same with Andre Santos, make the most of your opportunities, perform well in the games and the minutes that you're given, and you will force yourself into that team, and you will force yourself up the pecking order, and you will make it impossible for the manager not to pick you. And that's all you want. You want as many of your players playing well. And then
I would say this, though, Charlie. I would say when you mention Santos, I think it's different with Santos than it is with Estevao, and let's just say Delap as well, because they're players that, well, naturally, they're further up the pitch. They're expected to contribute goals. If they do that, that's how they get in. And I don't feel like... I know Santos did score goals and was creative, but I feel like in this particular system, that's not an area where we rely on goals.
No,
so I think it's going to be a little bit harder for Santos to get in ahead of Fernandes, if I'm totally honest.
Yeah, look,
just based on that.
It will be. And obviously, look, we saw what Santos done at Strasbourg. We know Santos is an excellent player. The assist for Delap on Sunday was real nice, quick layoff into his path. Really, really nice bit of play. Santos will get opportunities, but we all know Enzo and Caicedo are going to play most weeks.
That's our bread and butter.
Yeah, there'll be rotation. There'll be games where they don't start. But generally speaking, from a week-to-week basis, those guys are probably going to start 9 times out of 10. Santos will start Premier League games. He'll come on in Premier League games. He'll play cup games and whatnot. But again, as we said, it's just all about making the most of your opportunities. And what you want is, when those guys don't play, we're in a situation now where the drop-off in quality from the guys that start to the guys on the bench is not massive anymore. Last season and previous seasons, it was quite a big drop-off. Now, in some cases, there's not much difference. And that's the most important thing for us, is that no matter who's playing, we've got players that are good enough to win us games and good enough to be starting games for Chelsea, but they're on the bench. That's what you want. You want to have a squad of players that, in theory, are all good enough to start for you. And I think that's what we're starting to get now.
Yeah, no, I think that you could build 2 Premier League 11s with what we have at the moment. And I did it the other day. I did a lineup build, and I was like, wow. Like when you actually see it yourself and you picture it, it's now we understand why. One of the reasons why we haven't been able to challenge in so many years, because we haven't had that much depth in such a long time. Again, I would say under Tuchel, we probably did have. That's probably the one area I could compare, to be fair. But in recent years under Clearlake, we stripped everything that we had and we've had to rebuild, and we haven't taken a step backwards. I will say that we took one big step backwards when we took everything away, but everything has been a step in the right direction since then. It's not like we've got worse than 12th, right? And I do see us finishing higher than 4th. I have to say, I see us doing better domestically. I see us doing better in the cups. I'm not saying that we'll do better in the Champions League than we did in the Conference League. I think that would be difficult. I'm feeling pretty good, Charlie. And one player that I'm really excited about is Hato, who we managed to get on a really cut price deal because Ajax was so desperate to not fluff the deal, because if Chelsea pulled out, they could have been in big trouble. So we got him for 37 million. I mean, what would you make of him? And obviously, we've got this whole centre-back conversation as well. I wouldn't have an issue seeing Hato as a centre-back. I know he's done it for Ajax, but looking at him over the past, especially against Milan, I do feel like he looks more like a left-back to me, and that's probably an area I'd prefer him to play.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Francesco Farioli, who was the Ajax manager last season, when one of the things he did when he first came in was, because Hato was a centre back. We forget he's 19. He was a centre back, but Farioli, come in, spoke to him. Look, I think you're more suited to being a left back. I think your skills and your attributes are better suited to being a fullback than a centre back. Took a lot of convincing, but he converted him into a left back, and he's not looked back now. In terms of he's a Dutch international. He's just 19 years of age. You can see the kid's got something about him. He's captained Ajax already. Played over 100 games for Ajax. He's a full Dutch international. He's a big lad as well, by the way, for 19. Real physical frame, looks imposing. Look, we know the attacking signings have excited us, but let's be real. This Jarell Hato is probably the most important signing we're going to make this summer, because we've been desperate for an alternative to Cucurella in the squad. We went through last season with Cucurella really as the only left back in the squad. At times, We were using Gusto and James out of position. Vega filled in occasionally during the first half of the campaign, but we've been in desperate need for an alternative to Cucurella, competition for Cucurella. And now we've got it. And Cucurella at 27, even if he's here for 3-4 more years, however long he's here for, Hato's going to be learning, playing minutes. And then when Cucurella eventually moves on, bang, Hato's going to be early to mid 20s, first choice left back at Chelsea in his prime. That's in theory the plan and hopefully what will happen. But mate, I'm really impressed with him. Looks calm on the ball. He's physical, defends well, can overlap, can invert into the midfield. I'm really looking forward to seeing more of him.
I think he's a great signing, mate. And you know what else? It almost feels like a signing is Gusto. Yeah, it feels like a signing. I'm so glad that over the past couple of games, we've had a little bit more flexibility in terms of what we're allowing our fullbacks, especially on the right side, to do. And I'm seeing James overlapping. I'm seeing Gusto overlapping. There is a part of me that thinks, don't think we'll be seeing James overlapping all the time because Maresca's been very cautious. But Gusto in particular, I just think he's I really believe he's one of the best in that position when he's allowed to do that. And I hope that Maresca at least allows him to do that when it's the right time. Obviously, there's games where it doesn't work. No problem. In that case, I just play Reece James, to be quite frank. But if you are playing a team where you do feel like, it could be a Man City, it could be a Liverpool, maybe it's just the bigger games, which almost seems a bit strange because you'd want a player like Reece James to feature. But if you're always going to invert, then I use Reece James in that system. If you're going to allow a player to overlap, 1 in 3 games, for example, then I think Gusto should take over that role. It seems like a sustainable model, at least from an injury point of view. But I'm hoping that Maresca can maintain that. Do you think that we're going to see that against sides like Crystal Palace? Because in fairness, we saw overlapping against Milan. They weren't pressing high, and I enjoyed watching it. Or is that just something that you think we're testing out in pre-season?
Oh, look, I don't expect Reece James to be overlapping on a regular basis next season, but maybe we might see it a bit more often than we did when he returned from injury, at the start of this year. I think what is clear is that Gusto is not comfortable inverting. We've seen that a number of times. Now, he's not good enough on the football in the midfield or as a ball carrier and whatnot. And because he was playing the system that doesn't suit his skill set, people were getting onto him and acting as like Gusto was not a good footballer. Gusto is a good footballer, very good. We saw what he did in the season under Mauricio Pochettino in a system that suits him. We've seen what he can do when he actually plays to his strengths. Look at the Club World Cup final. He was outstanding. Up and down that right side, getting assists, threat in the final third. That's where you want Malo Gusto. So if you can avoid it, you want to be inverting from the left-hand side. And if you're going to play Gusto, you make sure you're not inverting from the right. Because realistically, mate, we're at a situation now where if you're going to invert from that right-hand side, don't play Gusto. I think it's that simple. But look, I expect him to be back to his best next season, providing that he's not asked to invert on a regular basis.
Oh, mate, I couldn't agree with you more. I remember the Conference League final when he kept
honestly, it wouldn't have, if he'd been subbed off after 20 minutes, that wouldn't have been outrageous at all.
Yeah, no, you're right. And by the way, I'm not even. I've never been particularly critical of Gusto.
I'm a big fan of him. I really like him.
Yeah, because I always felt like it's not his fault. You've got to allow the players to at least play to their strengths. But hey, we'll see what happens. One player we need to speak about. I guess this comes into the 3 strikers. We'll start with João Pedro. Do you think he's the missing part of this side, or have we just got that extra cover, knowing that we had the lap wrapped up anyway? And now we've obviously got Jackson as a 3rd choice striker, but it looks like he's destined to leave.
Yeah, look, João Pedro. Look, I'll be honest, mate. I didn't quite realise how good he was based on what we've seen from him so far in the 5 games that he's been here. Look, clearly a talented boy. When he was signed to Watford, he was looking good at Watford. He went to Brighton. You could see the ability. You could see what he was about. but I didn't get the feeling that he was this good. I've been really, really impressed with what I've seen. Intelligence, movement, scoring different types of goals, headers, alert in the box, scoring bangers, good finish on him. And just an all-round general nuisance. He makes them runs in behind. He's a little bit like Jackson in that sense, but what he's got miles better than Jackson is that awareness in the box, that striker instinct, and that finishing. The finishing is just like, he's very clinical in front of goal. He's a bagsman, really. But the way
it looks like a natural, mate. It doesn't look forced.
And I always thought, to me, I never really viewed him as an out and out number 9. I more viewed him as like a 9.5. And I think initially when Chelsea signed him, it was to be that versatile forward that could cover multiple positions across the front line. And he was almost going to be a replacement for Nkunku. Now with Jackson looking like he's going to go, I'm not saying that Pedro won't play as a 10, won't play off the left or right or whatever. But I think it's very clear now, when Jackson leaves, so I think it's obvious he will leave now, is that Pedro is probably going to play the majority of his minutes as a number 9. And what you look at here for me is how he moves, how he reads the game. He's clever. He's intelligent, And I think...
And he's talented.
Yeah, and I think it's the same. I think everyone's going to have the same feeling as I said, Like, knew he was a good player. I was excited to get him. I don't think we realised how good he is. I mean, I think Joe Cole said it the other day. I think Joe Cole said it the other day, mate, where he was talking about Joao Pedro on a sort of a season preview for TNT. And he was saying that, like, he wasn't sure Chelsea are sort of quite aware of how good this lad actually is. And I think as fans, it seems to be the same at the moment as well. Knew he was a good player, but weren't really familiar with how good he was.
I mean, one thing I will say is that at the time of signing Joao Pedro, I was a bit like, really? I don't know about you. Because obviously you get these big names, your Corez, even Sesko is a bigger name. Doesn't mean he's a better player, but he's a bigger name. Osman, obviously, that one's been chucked around God knows how many times. And I do stand by this. I do think we overpaid for Joao Pedro.
I don't think we did, mate. Because if you look
but you're looking at it from the perspective of what he's looking at right now.
No. But I'm the market in general.
That at the time of buying Joao Pedro, if you look at him statistically, which I did, and obviously I have watched him play in a number of matches, I really struggle to justify 10 goals and 5 of those are penalties and see how that's worth 60 million in today's market. I mean, by that logic, Nicholas Jackson's a better player, right? And again, I'm not sitting here saying that. I'm not saying he's a better player, but if you're looking at it from a GA perspective, it's really not that different.
No, they got exactly the same GA in the Premier League last season. I think they both had 10 goals. Jackson had 6 assists and Pedro had 5. Obviously, none of Jackson's goals were penalties. So if you're purely looking at it from a GA perspective, then yeah, sure, I get that. But I guess my concern was this. It was that he's scoring goals, but is he able to get goals from open play? And that was the concern that I had.
No,
I think that's fair. I think that's fair, mate. And look, when we were first linked with him, look, I never said he was a bad player. I was a little bit unsure. I was sort of thinking, is this someone we really need? Is this someone that's going to maybe, elevate us to another level potentially? I was a little bit unsure. Like the player, I think he's a good player. My concern was, is he good enough? Is he better than kind of what we've got? Because the thing for me is, if you're going to sell players, fine, just bring better in. That's always my thing. I don't mind if someone goes, bring me someone better in. And I think we're seeing now that obviously Pedro is better than what we've previously had on the evidence that we've seen so far. And he's a much better footballer than I think a lot of Chelsea fans realised. Even if we rated him, which a lot of people have rated him, I think we're realising now this guy is a lot better than we thought. 23 years of age, Brazilian international. He's hit the ground running, mate. And I know Maresca's said that, there's not going to be a first choice. It's not Joao Pedro or Liam Delap. It's both. And depending on the opposition that we play, that's going to be that'll dictate who starts. And it is annoying when people put Delap against Pedro. They're both what? They're at 22,
I mean,
23.
they're competitors. You know, they want to start.
And that's
there's
what you
nothing wrong
want.
with that.
You know, young strikers are going to be very inconsistent. So expect inconsistencies from these guys throughout the season. But the competition is going to be better for both because they're both pushing each other on. And that's what you want. How many times have we said over the past couple of seasons, no competition for Jackson? There are times where Jackson shouldn't have been playing, but there was no one else, so he had to play. Now,
in fairness, when Jackson did have Nkunku, I mean, that conversation was there. Jackson was scoring loads of goals.
Yeah, he was.
And then when that faded away, that's actually when he dipped.
Yeah, but I think, look, it's important to have that competition, and the competition will push both of those players on, and they'll both be better for it.
Yeah, man. I just want to say I'm a huge Delap fan. I love Delap. I do think that there's a part of me who, which thinks, if we're playing against teams and we're just passing around, I'm not sure if he's the player I want. Especially in that sort of quote unquote tiki taka. But Maresca's shown that he is willing to be a little bit more flexible. We are happy to counter attack every now and again. I guess it's just down to the profiles, right? I mean, we saw it against PSG, and I thought. Off the bench, Delap probably should have scored 2 against PSG, and fair play. He did score 2 against Milan. One of them was a penalty, which was very generously passed over from Estevao, and then he scored another goal, which
nice finish,
some good link up as well. But he strikes me as almost like an old school striker, old school proper Chelsea striker. And I think that he's the closest thing that we've got now that we've ever had since Diego Costa in terms of that profile, wanting to get physical. And one of the best things about Delap, if I'm not wrong, last season, he didn't get a single red card in the Premier League.
He's the most booked player in the league, though.
But he didn't get a single red card.
No, he didn't get a red, but he was the most booked, so he would have served.
I can live with that. I can live with that. You know, so when we talk about discipline, I would argue Jackson's got worse discipline than a player like Delap because he let us down against Newcastle. We got sent off in the Club World Cup, and I don't mind players having a pop. I don't mind. Cucurella is a great example of a player who walks the line, never crosses it, but he walks it.
He did once last season. He got sent off, didn't he, at home against Brentford after the full-time whistle. But yeah, look.
I mean, at least it was after the game. I'll give him that.
Yeah, well, yeah, true. Yeah, look. I think Delap is. There's not many centre forwards like him in terms of. It feels like the old school centre forward is a bit of a dying breed in modern football, and he's a throwback to those centre forwards of the 90s and like the early 2000s.
He's got the nifty feet as well, right? He's got that technical ability.
And one thing that's very good about him is ball striking is excellent. The way that he strikes a football, he gets power behind it. It's clean. So look, he'll score goals for us. How many he scores, I don't know, but we're going to create chances for him. But again, the one thing we have to be aware of is that when he was at Ipswich, all his best moments, most of his goals came on the transition because against Ipswich, teams play on the front foot. And then when you catch them in possession, there's loads of space in behind. Not many teams will play on the front foot against Chelsea. So we need to see how he's going to adapt to playing against teams that sit deep and whatnot and how he has to maybe change his game slightly potentially. But I'm confident that if you get him chances, that he will score. And I think he's going to be a useful player next season. And I'm excited again to see what this guy's going to do and how he's going to develop. Because I think, it is a great option to have against certain teams from the off. But it's a brilliant option to have from the bench. 15, 20 minutes to go. Try something different. Balls up to the big man. That's also a really useful option for us to have.
Well, it's like a cherry on top for any team, right? Because again, it's not actually that common to have it. Like if you think about big, strong strikers in like the top divisions of English football, I mean, I guess you could. I mean, I wouldn't. I mean, Haaland's kind of in that bracket, but he doesn't strike me as a hold-up player, right? He doesn't really get involved in the games, so I wouldn't necessarily class him as that. I mean, who comes to mind for you? Maybe Calvert-Lewin.
Calvert-Lewin's.
Well, I mean, he's a hold-up striker, isn't he?
I mean, I think, yeah. I mean, look, yeah. There's not that many. I mean,
there's got to be someone else.
There'll be a few, but the point is that that sort of striker in the modern game is a rare breed.
That's beautiful, mate. It's brilliant.
There's no doubt about it. But look, I think it's exciting that we've now got 2 good options up front, 2 goal-scoring options up front. And also, the most important thing is 2 very different options as well. And
If
that
it
for me,
wasn't,
is the biggest. That for me, sorry, mate, is the biggest plus. Is that you've got 2 options, both can score goals, both are scoring goals, and both are totally different, which is what you want.
Yeah, I think if Fabrizio hadn't come out with all this stuff about it's over between Jackson and Chelsea, I would have been very open to keeping the guy.
Yeah,
but
I'm happy to keep Jackson as well.
I haven't got an issue with it. I haven't got an issue with it. And I've spoken to loads of people, and they go, Alex, you know, what happens if João Pedro did get injured and then you've only got the lap or something like that? And
yeah,
I totally concur with that point. I think it makes perfect sense.
I've had that conversation so many times with fans. I've had it on my channel, my own channel as well, where people are, oh yeah, but no top clubs are free strikers or whatever. You know, Jackson's not going to want to be a third striker. Maybe he doesn't want to be a third striker. Fine. But the point is, right, is that I think I discussed this with Matisse as well. Like, you have a situation where you're going into Champions League football and your 2 striker options are Delap and Pedro. One of them gets injured. One of them goes through a bad run of form. You're down to 1 striker. And then to change the game, you're looking at you're looking to wingers to change the game. You're having to play a winger down the middle. Now, I'm not saying that like it's going to be a disaster and that Delap and Pedro are going to get injured next season and they're going to be in trouble. But I also think it's very naive to sort of bury your head in the sand and think one of them, they're both going to stay fit for the whole season. I also think that is a naive thing to think. We hope that they do, but if we're being honest, mate, that's unlikely to be the case. So yeah, I think personally, Jackson goes. We know another striker's not coming in, so we just got to hope that Delap and Pedro can both stay fit between them. Otherwise, we're down to 1 and having to use someone as a false 9, which is never ideal. Imagine in a big Champions League knockout game. Let's say you get Barcelona in a knockout round, and you've got to go with a false 9 in the new camp because you lacked depth in the centre forward role. People could say on the other hand, oh, it's just unlucky to have both your strikers injured, but you have to plan for those eventualities within a squad throughout the course of a season.
Well, if we're planning on competing on all fronts and we do better, well, we already know we've got 2 additional games in Europe. That's a fact. And here's me just hoping that we'll do better than we did in the Carabao and the FA Cup. You'd probably say you got at least an extra 5 or 6 games spread out between the competitions there. So I've got just under 10 games extra that I've got to play. We played 64 games last season, but that does include the Club World Cup. We're going to imagine that we're playing a similar-ish amount, right? Because we've done more.
We'll play around 60 games for sure.
So we're just playing it in a more condensed period. So if anything, Maresca's going to be under more pressure to rotate than ever before because he's going to try and take care of players. We've seen that that's a priority. He actually said after the Conference League final, why the hell didn't you start Reece James? He said, because I didn't want to injure him. And everyone's reaction when I was speaking with him at half time was, what the hell are you doing? It's a final. But he literally prioritizes their welfare. And by the way, it's not a bad thing on a human level.
No.
He takes care of the players, although Chelsea fans.
But that's the whole point of having a squad, though, isn't it? Like everyone, you'd expect Reece James to start a final. But I think just on a James thing, very briefly, there's a slight tangent. Like the criticism that Maresca got for playing him in midfield, for the way that he managed his minutes, I know hindsight's a great thing, but in reality, as fans, we have to accept that we were so wrong on that.
Mm. No, I mean,
he was right.
We weren't wrong in the sense that Gusto was poor, but I mean the substitution.
No, I mean in terms of using the way that James was managed and his minutes managed
over the course of the season.
That's what I mean. Yeah, that's what I'm referring to. Sorry, yeah.
I think the argument for that is that James had to adapt as a player, and I do think his performances were restricted, but it was the best for his health and his body, and that we can't deny. I guess the question is, would you like to see a 9 out of 10 times a season, or would you like to see a 6 or a 7 out of 10, 25, 30 times a season? And players want to play more football, so that's a no-brainer for a manager. We've got to speak about Jamie Gittins, Charlie, because this is a guy, when I asked people after the game, both games actually, to be fair, he was a name that come up consistently. He's an exciting player. He still looks raw. I would say there are similarities to Madueke when he first came, although difficult to compare when Madueke was in a fumbling team, and Gittins is actually in a team that works. So I guess Gittins has it a little bit easier in that sense. But you've still got to go out and do the job. You've got to produce. And he is causing problems. He's causing a lot of issues for defenders. And he seems to be a player when one-on-one with a fullback, rather than opting to pass back consistently, he drives, he whips the ball in, or he just has a crack.
Yeah, mate. I'll be honest, mate. I was one of them that was a little bit unsure about Gittins, particularly with the money that we ended up paying for him. Look, we're looking at 2 games so far, but we can only judge from what we've seen. Okay. And obviously over the course of a season, there's going to be ups and downs, but from what we've seen in these 2 games, I've been impressed. And I think right now he is the starting option on that left-hand side. When Garnacho comes in, because it is going to be a when, because I think we're all aware this deal is happening, those 2 will be in competition for that left wing role. And so,
by the way, can I just ask you this? Do you think Garnacho is better than Tyreek George?
Yeah.
Okay, so all right, that's fine. Because some people don't believe that, and I go, well, no. Actually, the more I think about it, I know he's not a level raiser. That's the word people use. But he is better than what we have.
Mate,
he does add a little bit more.
We have to be honest here, right? We have to be honest here. Whether you like Garnacho or not, whether you are for or against the signing, I don't want us to sign him. However, you have to be objective. You can't allow the fact that you don't like a player, or you can't allow the fact you don't want a signing to cloud your judgment. Let's be perfectly real here. This is a lad that last season got 21 GA in a dysfunctional, dreadful Man United side. Put him in a different environment, and 100%. you could see something different. There's ability there, there's talent there. Whether he wants to work hard and fulfill that is another question. Whether we should be taking that gamble with him is another question. However, we know what Chelsea are like. Take no prisoners. If you come in, you're not trying hard in training, you don't perform, you don't live up to expectations, you'll be shipped on. So so when Garnacho comes, if he's poor next season and the attitude is not there and there's question marks around him, we know that Chelsea will move him on. So for me,
he won't be difficult to move on if we sign him for the right price.
Exactly.
And this is like, people get angry when, I mean, Man United obviously are angry. Fair enough. I mean, you should be, because if he's your most sellable asset and that's 30 million, we get that for a player we sell to Burnley or Dewsbury Hall, who was like our 6th choice midfielder. So I would be upset if I was Manchester United, but.
Yeah, no, you would be. Like, let's be honest. If you look at the market, you look at the value, the fees that players like Garnacho are going for: 55 Alanga, 55 plus 5 Pedro, Madueke 52. Garnacho is a £50 million player in the market. Forget your own opinions. But the way that the market is going,
I still disagree. Okay. Actually, no. You know what? Fair point.
Based on the market,
I'll give you that point. I'll give you that.
He's like, whether you like the player or not, if we get him for £30 million, right? That is well below market value from what the market dictates this summer. Whether you agree he's worth a certain amount or not, the fact is, if you get him for 30 million, that, in my opinion, is well below what the market would be saying.
But the thing is, when you look at Madueke, Chelsea didn't have to sell. Elanga, I presume Forest wanted to raise some funds, otherwise they wouldn't have done it. But again, it's a good offer, right? You wouldn't turn down a really, really good offer.
No.
So I think that's why they did it. I don't believe they had to sell. And United do. And that's the difference, right? It's a bit like Sancho. You've got to get him off your books. You want to get the wages isn't an issue. He's on 45k.
Oh yeah, the personal terms are all boxed off. That's done.
Yeah, in terms of the fee itself, we're going to be. We are in pole position, and we have shown, if anything, like, I don't want to reference the Maignan deal in a positive way, because I think a lot of Chelsea fans
fuming.
You know, you have the right to be upset about that. But one thing that Maignan deal did do is it sent a message to everyone that we negotiate with that if we are not willing, if you are not willing to be flexible with us, then we will not be flexible with you, and we will walk away from a deal. And that has actually done us well in a couple of deals. Obviously, Delap was a release clause, but that could have helped us in our negotiations for Hato, making Ajax think, oh, well, they could walk away from this one. There are deals where I do think we overpaid. As I said, I think we overpaid for Gittins. I think we overpaid for for João Pedro as well. That's absolutely fine. You know, if they turn out to be good players, then it's great money invested. Who am I to talk about spending a lot when we've got like 300 million pounds in the midfield, right?
Mate, well, the thing is though, as well, mate, we still got a lot of players to sell. Jackson, Nkunku, Sterling, Chilwell, Vega, Disasi, maybe Tyreek George goes, Chukwuemeka. That's 8 players there that I've just reeled off that are still going to leave the football club this summer. That's easily, mate, 100, 150, 200 million pounds more in player sales to come in.
And we're not going to spend any, you know, much more.
We won't spend anywhere near that. The most we'll spend is probably, well, if we were to get a centre back, you might touch 100 mil.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you're putting Simmons into the equation.
So Simmons, Garnacho, and a centre back, you're probably looking at maybe 130, 140, but less than what we're going to raise from selling those players.
Yeah, I think honestly, the Garnacho deal will go down to deadline day. And I think Chelsea will get it over the line.
Well, I think the position that we're in now is, like, Garnacho's made it clear. You're in a situation.
Problem is, though, is he signed a contract, mate.
Yeah, but what he's saying is, though, like, is that he only wants Chelsea or he's going to sit at United. I don't see a way back for him being reintegrated. Maybe United will have to reintegrate him, but they want to get rid of him. So it's tricky. But yeah, this deal will happen, and Garnacho will be a Chelsea player this season. Like, we all know this.
Hey, listen, I feel like I'm one of the only people who's actually, I'm an advocate for this.
Well, mate, maybe you should get the Garnacho shirt then when he signs.
Yeah.
And wrap it with pride, mate.
I saw a thing on the other day, a guy who buys a shirt every year, and it was like, it had Lukaku on, it had Mount, it had Havertz, and then the most recent one he bought was Madueke, and I was just like,
there's a few videos of that on TikTok and stuff where people are going through their shirt collections. And it's, as you say, it's Lukaku, it's Havertz, it's Madueke, it's Mount, Jorginho, it's Felix. Yeah, like, that's poor. You can't be doing that.
To be fair, mate, I never really get shirts with players' names on the back.
To be fair, the only reason I do it is because I want to get it signed. That's why.
Okay. I mean, I would get a Palmer. I'd get a Palmer.
I've got a Palmer and a James, but the reason I've got them is because I want to get them signed. So I'm not buying it.
Where do you bring them, though? There's just like if you go to the training ground or something.
Yeah, to the training ground or whatever. Yeah. So that's the why I've got. I'll wear them, but the main reason I get the name and a number on the back is because at some point I will get them signed, even if I have to go and wait at the training ground outside. That's why. Like, I'm not buying like it sort of for any other reason because I want to get it signed and whack a few more up on the wall, really. So so get a James and a Palmer. Let's get it signed.
Hey, I like it. You know what else I like to see? I like to see a player who apparently is on the front of the when you first walk into the mega store. The first shirt you see is Reggie Walsh. I haven't actually been in there, but somebody told me that. Oh. And it was great to see him get some minutes as well, mate. Yeah. You know, I think he's 16, 17. Very, very young.
Yeah, he come on in that second leg, didn't he? Away in Sweden against Djurgården.
And he featured in the home game as well.
Yeah, that was it. His debut was the away leg. Yeah.
Yeah, he was fantastic. I remember. So it reminds me of Billy Gilmore in a way, but he just does the simple things well. I mean, that's the best way to describe Reggie Walsh. Do you think he has any future at Chelsea this season, or is this another loan that needs to happen?
I think he'll play age group football.
Okay,
because he's still 16, 17.
That's fair. That's fair. I'm getting a bit carried away.
Yeah, he'll play age group football. Unless we get like a League Two side or a non-league side in the FA Cup or something like that, then he might be in the match day squad for that. But if you're talking general Premier League, I don't see it, man.
Oh, God, no. I'm thinking more Championship or something like that, you know?
Yeah.
Maybe a Wrexham.
No, I don't know. I'd expect him to stay at Chelsea and play age group football and then maybe go on loan the following season. So like the 26-27 season, send him out.
And Samina's another one people have spoken about. But I mean,
he'll be going on loan as well. So he's definitely going on loan.
I don't expect that one to happen. But I do think that one thing that a lot of Chelsea fans need to be happy. We look at Trevor Chalobah years ago. I mean, I know he got injured. It seems like he's okay. He posted on social media saying,
"Oh no, he's fine." Yeah.
Think that he could have, been sold easily for. By the way, a totally that's not a respectable price whatsoever.
Bro, he's 50. He's a £50 million player minimum.
He is. 50?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? I'd say 40, 50, around that mark.
He's under contract until 2028. He's
That's
24
fair.
years of age.
Is he only 24? Oh my God, he's so
Or he might
young.
be, actually, no, he's 25 now. But, you
Okay.
know, like England international now as well. Obviously, wasn't at the time. But you're looking at it, you're sort of seeing 30 million being spoken about. It's like, are you joking? Like, Bruno was sold for 20 mil. And we're saying that Chalobah might have been worth 30. That's mental. Absolutely mad. But he's the perfect example of the ultimate professional. Not once, has he moaned about anything. The way that he was treated by this football club, they tried to force him out. He held firm. He went on loan to Palace. And then we had an injury crisis in January. Badiashile, Fofana, all out. Chalobah comes back. Man of the match on his debut, return against Wolves. And then has contributed throughout the season. And is going to have a big, big role to play this season now with the injury to Colwell. So, yeah,
I would argue that Chalobah's our best centre back.
Right now,
just generally, I'd say
he's not better than Colwell. He's not.
He is. If you look at the player as a whole, what Chalobah has achieved, what he represents, what he's done, his versatility, which I'd say is similar to Colwell as well. I think they compete on that front. I'd say Chalobah's right up there with Colwell.
No, he's really important for us, and he's gonna have a big role to play this season.
And that's not a criticism of Colwell either, by the way. I like Colwell. I'm a fan of Colwell, but I just rate Chalobah that much. I would say he's our best centre back. And then I'd put Colwell in the equation. I mean, when Fofana's fit, he's our best, but he's never fit.
That's the big issue, and this is another one, right? I love Wesley Fofana, and we all know how good this guy is when he plays. He's great. Issue is we're now at a situation where this is going to be his 4th season at Chelsea coming up now. And the guy, I don't even think he's played 50 games for the club. He missed a whole season under Poch with ACL injury. Last season was plagued by injuries as well. It's for me, this season is really, make or break for Fofana. If he can't stay, if he misses again a large portion of this season, we have to take the decision to move him on.
We should have sold him already. That's what.
I don't think so because we've kept faith with Reece James. Lavia's going into his 3rd season now. We're keeping faith with these players. So you look at it, and for me,
I think that's different. Reece James is our club captain, best player in the world when he's fit. Has a history with Chelsea, got respect from Chelsea. Lavia, fair point about the injuries, but he's never shown any inkling of wanting to leave. And Fofana has. That's the truth. He has. He's not loyal to us. He's not, honestly, mate. If Marseille put in an offer, he said openly, he would love to go back to Marseille. He said that last season. I can never, ever let Fofana off the hook for that. And you look at the way he left Leicester, he would do exactly the same thing to us. And the guy is never available. I'm not saying he's a bad bloke. It's not personal. I'm just saying on a footballing level, I don't look at Fofana and see anything different to, a lot of other players out there like Vega, like Felix.
No,
I don't. He doesn't have any loyalty for us.
I'm not having that.
He doesn't. If he could get a move to, he'd go tomorrow. That's the reality of it. He's just never fit, mate. So, of course, nobody's going to spend the money.
Yeah,
and we have to fork out all those wages.
But anyway, look.
Who can't feature. And by the way, Charlie, he will feature against Palace if he's fit, which, fine, no problem. But he'll play 4 or 5 games, maybe 6. If we're lucky, we'll get double digits out of him, and then he'll get injured.
Let's just hope it's different. I
don't doubt his quality as a player. I just don't really.
No, mate,
I don't think that he's a player that really wants to be here. I just don't see it.
I think he does want to be. Look, ultimately, he has to stay fit for most of this season. We are in last chance saloon now, going into year 4. I think that's the way that this has to be looked at. So, look, I'm hoping, like every Chelsea fan is hoping, this guy stays fit and he plays because he is very good. That's what this comes down to. I'm just really hoping that this is the year he gets on top of these injury issues. We've seen Reece now seemingly looks to be like he's on top of these issues. Let's hope that it's the same for Fofana next season.
Yeah, man. Well, listen, on a footballing level, obviously, fair play to him. I hope he recovers. I just, again, I stand by what I said. But I do think that Crystal Palace would be a tough game, man.
Yeah.
I think actually out of a lot of the games we could have had, especially that they haven't sold Eze, they've still got like really good
Still got
players.
Gertie as
Adam
well.
Morton
Yeah.
is in there as well. They got a
Mark,
solid.
Mark Gertie's still there, hasn't
Mark
gone yet.
Dean Henderson looks great. You know, he's a good
goalkeeper.
goalkeeper.
They're a good team, mate. Like we didn't beat them.
Way,
we didn't beat them last season.
Cam said he was at the airport on the way to Malta and he bumped into.
Cam went to Malta. When did he go Malta?
Like a couple of weeks ago, and he saw Dean Henderson in the airport.
Mate, shame that he didn't do the visit Malta situation.
I know. I think he went to some sort of family holiday.
Yeah,
but apparently, like he was looking at him, and his mum said to him, Cam's mum, he was like, "Go and get a picture with him." And Cam looked over at Dean Henderson. He's got like a 30 grand Rolex on. He's getting shouted at by his missus. Fucking do this, fucking do that. I don't even know if she's Northern. I'm putting that on. He's like, she's giving him a right handful. And he just went, nah, I can't do that. He's, you know what? He's on holiday with his family. But I thought that was quite funny. But yeah, sorry. Back to the football. Yeah, it's a good side, mate. Palace are decent. I think anyone who's saying we're going to walk over Palace, I'd think twice about it. But having said that, we've looked pretty good ourselves.
Yeah, no, we have looked good ourselves, mate. But as we know, there's no easy games in the Premier League. You've got to turn up and you've got to be at your best to beat any team in this league. If you're slightly off it, you'll get punished. You'll lose. It's going to be difficult, mate. It is going to be difficult. As I said, we drew both games against them last season. But I'm confident now that we've got the quality in the attacking positions to obviously cause damage and score goals and create opportunities. Defensively, there's still a couple of things that need to be ironed out, and that's maybe where I'd worry about us a little bit. But this will be close. I think Palace will score. Eze, Sarr, Mateta. These are good players. Wharton in the midfield. Gertie at the back. Henderson, as he referenced, in goal. There's a decent spine of a team there. There won't be any pushovers. I think we will win. This is a tough game, though, mate. Make no mistake about it. This game's a lot more difficult than I think a lot of people are realising.
I think when we actually look at the Premier League in terms of opening games, I think it's a good thing that we've got a home game. I mean, that's
really
going
good,
in our favour. But yeah, Palace is, out of all the, I mean, they're not really a mid-table team. They're playing European football, but they kind of are still. I'd say out of those mid-table teams, they are the one that I go, not really sure how I feel. And we didn't have a great record against them last year. We drew twice.
Drew both games, yeah.
So, and even like if you look at I'm trying to think. I remember the away game. What was the score on the home one?
1-1 as well.
Was that when? No, that
Eze scored. Eze scored from outside the box. Jackson opened the scoring, I think, and then Eze. It was basically Pedro Neto's first start for the club. It was literally right at the start of the season we played Palace at home.
Who scored the second goal for us?
That was 1-1 that game.
Oh, was it 1-1? I thought it was 1-1 in the away leg. Oh, maybe it was.
Yeah, it was 1-1 away as well, where
Right.
Sancho let the ball run for his legs, and then that assist for Palmer. It was 1-1. Yeah.
I feel like against Palace, they don't give you many clear-cut chances.
No, they don't. They defend really well.
You have to take your half chances. Again, that makes me feel more confident seeing players like João Pedro, because that's what he's been doing. So, I mean, and not to mention as well, Pedro Neto, I really believe that something has just clicked in his head. I'm not going to say it's because of Jota dying or anything like that. But he didn't get worse. He leveled up because I think they were best mates, right? He's just looked like an animal. He was our best player in the Club World Cup, and I would not start Estevao ahead of Pedro Neto right now. I wouldn't do it.
Of course not.
But a lot of people find that controversial. I think that's just standard. Like, he's adding GA to his portfolio now. We've gone from a player at Wolves who, he was great on the break. He caused issues. He had a really bad injury record at Wolves as well, which we haven't seen at Chelsea. Fingers crossed. And he's just developing into I'm trying to think of a player I could compare him to. Maybe to an extent, almost like Willian, a player who's really willing to do that defensive work as well as contributing on the ball as well.
Yeah, for sure, mate. And this could be a big breakthrough season for him in regards to his Chelsea career. I think what we're seeing now is you have a striker in the box, Delap, Pedro. Neto's crosses now, they got people on the end of them. they're going to get goals from him putting balls into the box. And this is what we want. Direct, works hard. He's got a goal in his locker himself. But I think his assists are going to go up big time next season because we've got that focal point in the box, whether it's Pedro, whether it's Delap.
But his crossing ability is class. And actually, when you have a player like that, you don't have to be reliant on overlapping James or Gusto. I know I've just been advocating for them to do that, but it's nice to have another player who can whip a good ball in, right? So it gives us a few options in terms of getting those deliveries in. But yeah, man, I'm feeling good. I'm gonna make a prediction off the top. I would say 2-1 Chelsea. What are you saying, Charlie?
Mate, I said it to you yesterday after the game. I think 2-1 for me as well.
Opening the scoring as well.
Yeah, I think they'll open the scoring.
Yeah, I agree. I think if Palace go 1-0 up, that's when we could be in trouble. But I can see us getting the lead in that one. But hey, listen, let us know what you think, guys. If you've enjoyed the podcast, let us know. Smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, subscribe to Charlie's channel as well. We'll leave a link down below. And listen, we are back. Pre-season is over. We're going into the league and we'd love to go top of it, but we're certainly going to be towards the top end of the table. No doubt about that. I'm looking forward to it. All the best, guys, and we will catch up very, very soon.